Hello, back again, live again. Wait, I'm starting up one more live. Hello, back again, live again. I'm trying to do these lives to just basically improve my overall speaking abilities, but tonight specifically, I really want to talk about some reselling tips that you need to know, some brands, and be on the lookout brands that are currently making me some good money. So if you want to make some money reselling, then you're definitely going to want to stick around for this video. I have some notes right in front of me because I get easily distracted. So if you're wondering what I'm looking at, it's these notes here. Let's see. I hope everybody is doing great tonight. I know it's kind of a weird time. It's almost 8 o'clock. Yikes. If you want to drop where you're from, what your favorite thing is to sell or buy in the resale market, that would be great. And stick around to the very end because I am going to share the number one trend that is making me lots of money and hopefully making you money as well, or going to be. All right. And then throughout, I'm going to kind of sprinkle some little games here and there. So we'll try to keep it interactive. Okay, BOLOs. If you don't know what a BOLO is something where it's a be on the lookout for. So these are things that you're going to want to know in order to make money. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is 4 methods, 4 ways and 4 things that I use to help me to choose if something is a BOLO. I don't really like saying the word BOLO. I don't really like saying the word BOLO. Do you know why? Because in Hawaii, if you speak pigeon slang, which pretty much everybody does, a BOLO is kind of another way to say like a guy's private parts. So I don't every time I say BOLO, I know it means be on the lookout for, but in my mind, it's just ingrained in my head that a BOLO is um different. So that's why I hesitate there. Anyways, let's get on with the first method that I use. So these are 4 things that I use in order to choose things that you need to be on the lookout for so you can make lots of money when you're sourcing inventory and you're selling inventory. The first one is probably the most obvious, and that's trends. So right now, something really trendy is vintage, pretty much vintage anything, and then Y2K, which technically is vintage now because vintage is anything older than 20 years, which is what the early 2000s is. It's 25 years ago now. That's crazy. And any core. So basically anything that has a real aesthetic to it. So Regency core, which is kind of closely related to anything Bridgerton. So if you watch that show Bridgerton, then that is that Regency core right there. And cottage core, Barbie core, ballet core, all the cores. The second thing I use to find method to identify something that is a BOLO item is anything that has an unexpected high value. So think of classics that don't ever go out of style. So Christmas decor sells in off seasons. I just sold Christmas decorative uh, textile for $50, and I posted that in 15 minutes and it sold. From when I posted it live to when it sold was 15 minutes, $50, and that's selling in March. Who would have thought, right? So something so that would be something that's considered classic. It doesn't ever go out of style because Christmas stuff is always something highly searched for. And then 2000 era cameras. So anything that is I think I have one somewhere, but those square or rectangular cameras, they're about this big, this shape, and they were really popular in the early 2000s. What are they Oh my gosh. But those are selling for a lot of money. And at first I didn't understand why, but from researching it more, people are using those type of cameras. um what is the industry? When they do architects, architects and people that do real estate, they use those type of cameras. I guess they're lightweight and they're easy to carry around. So they make really good sales in the resale market if you find them, and you can get them pretty cheap. If you found one of those cameras and sold them for a lot, let me know. And then instruments. So I found a shoot, what is the name of a strum stick? So look up a strum stick real quick. I found a strum stick. I think it was between 10 and $20, and I sold it for almost $200. So that is a great profit margin right there. What percent is that? I don't know. I'm bad at math. Ugh. On the good note, if you find instruments, you could be able to make a good amount of money in that area. So the third method I use in order to identify if something is a BOLO item is if it is niche. Scroll. It's telling me to scroll, and I don't know. Oh my goodness. Okay. If something is niche, so that is something that has a really strong, what is the word? Um, a really strong audience behind it. Think Star Wars, think vintage toys like Bop It. Uh, Calculators have a really strong audience behind them. If you sold any of these really niche, weird items that have a strong audience, leave me a comment so I can have more ideas. But these are things that I've personally sold that are pretty niche, but they sell for a good amount of money and quickly too. And then the fourth method to use to identify if something is a BOLO item is a brand. So this is another classic one. This one's pretty obvious, but if you put I should grab out some samples in the future. But if you put out a plain black shirt, so two plain black shirts, and one of them is a Hanes shirt and one of them is a Louis Vuitton shirt, the Louis Vuitton is going to sell even though they're both plain black shirts, because brands sell. It doesn't matter. People like their brands, right? It's kind of shallow, but I mean, that's just part of it. So, four things to look out for when you want to make money when you're looking for items that are fast sellers. Is it on trend? So, you need to know trends, which for me is hard because, as you can tell, I don't know, I just dress how I like to dress, and I don't really follow trends, but I have to know trends in order to resell items because not everybody likes to dress like this. Unexpected high value items. So look for classics that we went over, and niche collectibles. So that is vintage toys, calculators, Star Trek, and brands. So brands are obvious, but you need to look out for them. If any of these methods fall under one of your favorite methods for identifying items that are super BOLO or be on the lookout for, let me know. I'd really like to know. Um, and I would also want to know if I missed anything. Did I miss something? Are there any methods that you use to identify items that make you a lot of money? And I am on top of that, I'm gonna start selling wholesale, or even if you like to buy items on the cheap, I'm gonna start doing whatnot auctions. So just follow if you want to follow my page, and I will definitely be listing once I start whatnot auctions. I think I have over 100 plus pair of Y2K jeans right now, and that's probably gonna be my first whatnot auction because I'm overflowing with jeans. So make sure you follow me, and I'll let you guys know when I start those live auctions. You can score deals whether or not you resell them. I don't really care. But now we're going to look at 10 BOLO brands to watch for. So since we're speaking about brands and how they are the best, probably the top way to sell something that's worth money, we're going to go over 10 of those brands that are selling for me right now. So Let's play a little game. If you hear a brand that you like to buy, I want to know how much you paid for that brand, not in the first hand market, but in the second hand market. So in the resale market. If you've bought any of these brands, comment how much you paid for it in the resale market. And if you sold any of these brands, comment how much you've sold this brand for and what it was. That way, we're going to kind of play a game, but we're also going to kind of learn. All right. So, we're going to be sharing some secrets here. So, the first brand, which is probably the most obvious, is Coach. And not really modern Coach, but vintage Coach. If you look on the Coach website, they are selling their Coach items, their vintage Coach items, for just as much, if not more, as their brand new Coach items that they're listing. It's just crazy to think about something that was made so long ago that is going for the same amount, if not more, as something that is, brand new. So vintage Coach Y2K is really hot, and even like really, really old Bonnie Casson, I believe is how you say the designer's name. I believe that was a creative director for Coach at one point in time. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. I'm just going off of memory here, and my memory is not always the greatest. But let me think. I just sold a pair of Coach sandals Y2K. I got them at the Goodwill bin, so I paid one, maybe $2 for them, and I sold them for full asking price, $65 within a week of listing. So that's a really good sale. 1 week, $65 asking price. I mean, come on, right? And then the next item is Dansko. So specifically, they're chunky sandals. So I know they make loafers and Muse and all these types of old lady blah 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 looking sandals. Not really those, okay? The chunky Dansko sandals. I've already sold two of those styles, and it's only spring. I think I might have a pair I think I might have another pair I can dig up really quickly to give you an example. Okay, right here. So if you have these type, or if you see these type of Dansko chunky sandals, this is what you're going to want to be looking for. I sold two of these already. Okay, and it's just spring. They're very Y2K, very butterfly, schoolgirl type of look. So that's another brand you want to be on the search for. And the third brand is going to be LL Bean. Not modern LL Bean, okay, but made in Maine, in the United States, Maine. So the modern stuff I would definitely stay away from. If you like to buy the modern stuff, I mean, cool, but the money is in the vintage LL Bean. I sold some lamb earmuffs in the beginning of this past winter for 50 something dollars. And I mean, for earmuffs, come on, 50 something dollars, that's a great price. The fourth item is Johnny Was. So the trick with Johnny Was, because they have a few different lines, I believe PETA and Greta is one of them. But the trick with Johnny Was is to have lots of embroidery. So if you have lots of embroidery in your Johnny Was shirts, those are going to sell for more. I just sold a shirt for 65, was it 65, 55 to $65 for a Johnny Was shirt. So that is a really good price. The more embroidery, basically the more money you're going to get from each listing. Let's see. The fifth item is Ed Hardy. So as you're probably telling by now, a lot of these items that I'm talking about, at least in this first half of this list, are vintage items. So vintage items are really, really hot right now. You're going to want to hop on the bandwagon for it. It is what it is. If you want to make money, you're going to want to sell these 5 vintage brands. So Ed Hardy is one of them. Not the new stuff that they're selling in Ross. I would stay away from those. Those are $0 you're gonna get. But his originals, his when he was really popular in the early 2000s and his stuff was selling for a few $100s, you can pretty much get that same amount for those items now. I I have a couple of Ed Hardy jackets. One of them I gave away actually to one of my son's friends, and the other one is somewhere, but those are originals. Those are worth a good amount of money. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a bonus tip right now, right in between our list of brands. Did you know that because a brand sells for a lot of money brand new, it does not mean it sells for a lot of money in the resale market? Did you know that? Because when I first started reselling, I didn't know that. So if you knew that, well, good for you. Because what did I buy? There's a few brands and things that I personally love. I can't remember the name of them right now. But for example, something that's popping off the top of my head is that brand Cynthia Rowley. Have you ever heard of that brand? Well, she sells for some of her items a good amount of money, brand new. And if you go to the thrift store and you see it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, Cynthia Rowley. I mean, I'm gonna buy this. It must resell for a lot of money." It doesn't. It doesn't. I have a beautiful cashmere cardigan that I still have listed for only $30, and it's still sitting in my shop. And if you like dark gray cashmere Cynthia Rowley cardigans, then by all means, it's only 30 something dollars. Please buy it from me. But that's a good example of a brand that resells for a good amount of money, brand new, but not in the resale market. Another example is Nike. Okay, Nike is a super, super popular athletic wear brand. If you go to the Nike stores, you're looking at pants and shirts that cost you $50 and up, especially their shoes in the hundreds, right? But when you look at the resale market, unless it's a Nike collab or some sort of limited edition item, it doesn't catch a lot of money reselling. It just doesn't. Go into eBay, filter by sold, go into eBay, you'll get a number of total listings for Nike, right? Now filter that out by sold and divide that up, and you'll see the sell-through rate. And there's so much, it's so saturated in the market right now. It's not selling. I have items, Nike brand new with tags, that I think I'm coming up to a year of having them in my storage. That is a very unusual. I don't like holding on to stuff for that long. I try to keep my sell-through rates, like, I try to find items that are so hard to find, vintage, that they sell fast. I mean, so Nike is one that I would stay away from unless it's a collab or a limited edition item. Okay, now let's move on to our next one. A great brand to look out for is Love Shack Fancy. So I don't know if you ever heard of it. When I first heard of it, I thought, "Oh my goodness, is this another Shein brand?" Because I don't know, just the way the words are put together.